Good morning, everybody. Can I welcome members to the first remote meeting of Sefton Council's Cabinet? And I'd like to extend a special welcome to members of the public who might be viewing this meeting online. My name's Ian Mayer, and I'm the leader of Sefton Council. This meeting is being held using Microsoft Teams live event software, and prior to the meeting, a test meeting has been held to make sure it runs smoothly. A protocol for members attending remote meetings has been circulated prior to the meeting, and I would respectfully request that members adhere to this protocol. It would be particularly helpful if members turned off their cameras and muted their microphones when not addressing the meeting. If members would like to address the meeting at any time, could they please indicate by using the chat facility in Microsoft Teams? The chat facility enables elected members to raise issues and interact with the meeting in real time. If members are called to address the meeting, could they please pause for a few seconds to enable their microphones to be unmuted and their cameras to be turned on? Just as another note, we do have an additional item on our agenda regards to adult social care funding, which is a late item, and we will discuss that a little bit later on. So agenda item is number 1. Apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence? And as all of Cabinet's here, we don't have any. So no apologies for absence have been received. If anyone wishes to offer any other apologies on behalf of colleagues, could they indicate their wish to do so in the chat facility? Okay, we move on then to agenda item number 2, which is declarations of interest. If members wish to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests or personal interests in respect of any items on the agenda, then could they please indicate their wish to do so by using the chat facility in Microsoft Teams? Okay, we've got no declarations of interest, so we move on then to our next item on the agenda, which is agenda item number 3, minutes of previous meeting. The minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on 5th of March 2020 are submitted for approval. Is it the Cabinet's decision that I sign the minutes as a correct record?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, that's agreed then. Moving on again, agenda item number 4, Sefton Climate Emergency Strategy. Can I invite Stefan van Arensen, the Executive Director of Corporate Resources and Customer Services, to introduce the report? Stefan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Members will recall that last July the Council declared a climate emergency. And in response to that, a number of work streams have progressed since last July. This work has obviously been impacted by COVID since the turn of the year, but it's pleasing at this meeting that we can present for comments and approval the Council's proposed strategy that will take it through to 2030 and the achievement of the objectives that are set out in that declaration. The report and the strategy has been considered by the member reference group, which has recently been established in order to provide guidance and strategic support to the programme. And the report is presented today for approval by Cabinet, and it will subsequently go on to full Council for approval also. I just wanted to bring to members' attention a subsequent report that we hope to bring in July of this year to Cabinet also. At the start of the year, we conducted a lot of work through the relative overview and scrutiny committees, which Cabinet and Council reference were really key in addressing the climate emergency and to be full part of it. Those committees conducted a lot of baseline activity, which aimed to get to a position where we could understand the scale of the challenge facing the Council. And that information has been invaluable. And that will inform our first annual report that will be produced in July, and also the first 3-year implementation plan, which will set out the Council's approach to start to deliver on the objectives of the climate emergency from that point. So the report is presented for Cabinet for consideration and approval, and I think the Cabinet member would like to speak also, but happy to take any questions that arise.
Ian?
Yeah.
Righty-ho. I'd just like to commend this report to the Cabinet. I think there's been a great deal of hard work, and I'd like to thank all the officers. I think it's been very creatively looked at and in very difficult circumstances. Interestingly, COVID has actually shown us what it would be like if we didn't use cars, and what happens when you shut down an awful lot of the traffic. So maybe there's some lessons in there that we may be able to learn. Who knows? At least we're aware of the implications, especially to do with air quality now, and how that will impact on our residents. I draw people's attention to page 34, because that actually says what we're going to do next. And there's a comprehensive description there of all the different things that we intend to do, how we need to link in with the city region, how we need to work with our partners and decision makers. And I know that some people I've spoken to said that they would have liked the citizens panel to start in 2020, but unfortunately with the practicalities that we're facing at the moment, that isn't physically possible, we don't think. So what we'd like to say, or I'd like to say, is that we're working hard. We want to work with everybody. We want to make sure people are involved, and we want to make this a success. This is not just we want to do this and we don't mean it. We mean this most sincerely, and we will be working very hard over the next few years to achieve these goals. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't, but in the end, we will get there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lappin. The recommendation on this report is that we recommend to Council the approval of the Sefton Climate Emergency Strategy. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay. Just for members of public, the silence is just to give members time to come in and let me know if they want to speak further. So that's why we're leaving that gap before we move on. Having spoken through that gap, and I've had no indications that anyone else wants to say anything. That's agreed, yeah? So we move on then to our next agenda item, which is agenda item number 5, the SEND Continuous Improvement Plan update. Can I invite Jan McMahon and then Vicky Buchanan, our officers, to speak to this and talk us through this first, please? Jan.
Thank you, Chair. The report updates on progress made to date on the improvement plan. It outlines some of the changes that we've made so far, which include our first ever parent carer survey, and we now have in place a commissioning action plan. The report also gives a brief outline of the impact of COVID on the improvement plan, but I would stress that all governance groups, the SEND Continuous Improvement Board and its subgroups continue to meet, and there's still a lot of energy against delivering this improvement plan. I think Vicky, the Executive Director of Children's Social Care and Education, would now like to update on how it's impacted on the operational side of things.
Okay, Vicky.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would just like to sort of inform Cabinet. Actually, the team and the partnership has been working extremely positively, and we've had a real kind of business as usual approach to supporting our SEND young people. That has had challenges, and we have had to do things differently using virtual measures, lots of phone calls and other ways of doing things. But importantly, we have continued to improve in a number of areas, including our performance around completion of education, health and care plans within 20 days, which currently is for May looking at sort of 69%, which is probably our highest target achieved, and an annualised figure of 55%, which is, you know, significant improvement compared to where we were at this time last year. You will see in the report we have identified a risk around reviews, And I just want to assure Cabinet that we've met this week and we now have contingency plans in place that should see that improve over the coming months. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Cummins, you wish to say something?
Yes, thanks, Chair. As Chair of the Continuous Improvement Board, it's good to be able to report on continuous improvement. As Jan said, we've been meeting virtually, and those meetings have gone well, and all the subcommittees have been carrying on. I think one thing that I'd like to do is thank our officers for all the work that they've put in and the dedication, but not just our officers, actually, from other agencies as well, and the input of the parent carers. It's felt like a really great collaborative effort, and people have genuinely been working in partnership. It's some of the best partnership work that I've seen. I'm really pleased to report on that. And also thanks to our Overview and Scrutiny Committee for their ongoing input into this whole process, which is an important part of it. So thanks to everybody. We just need to keep it up. We know that children with disabilities and special educational needs deserve our highest priority, and we're giving that at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Anybody else wish to say anything or comment at all? No indications. Nothing no indications. The recommendations for this one are that we consider the progress made to date, be aware that changes have now been introduced, and this means many of the action plan objectives are being met. Where required, appropriate remedial action is in place, and that we confirm as Cabinet that we consider the level of risk is being effectively managed. Do we all agree those recommendations?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, shall we move on then? That's agreed. Agenda item number 6 is an appointment of a member to the Liverpool University Hospital NHS Foundation Trust University Hospital Council of Governors. God, that was hard to say. Is it agreed the recommendation within the report? Does anyone want to say anything on this, sorry, before we move on? No. It's recommended in the report that Councillor Carr is appointed to that body. Is that all agreed?
Agreed.
Is that agreed? Yeah.
Yeah.
15 seconds or thereabouts, looking at my watch. Okay, that's agreed. Thank you, colleagues. Shall we move on again to the additional item I mentioned at the start of the meeting, which is care homes additional funding. This has been circulated as an urgent report on the supplementary agenda published yesterday. And Deborah Butcher, Executive Director, is going to talk us, introduce this report. Deborah? Deborah, you just need to unmute your mic.
Thank you, Chair. This paper is about the national funding arrangements to support care homes and our proposals to provide additional funding to Sefton care home market. It reflects the issues raised by our care homes and national good practice. And the recommendation to Cabinet is that the proposals set out in 5.1 are implemented, that future decisions about the additional funding is delegated to the Executive Director of Adult Social Care and Health and DPH, Director of Public Health, in consultation with Cabinet members for Adult Social Care and Health and Wellbeing, and to continue to gather information on financial pressures of the market and report progress to the Health and Wellbeing Board. And by way of background, on the 19th of March, £1.6 billion worth of funding for COVID pressures was announced by government. Additional on the 18th of April, a further £1.6 billion worth of funding was announced. In addition to this, the government announced that the NHS fund new placements out of hospital and care packages to enable quick discharge from hospitals under pressure from COVID positive patients. Further national guidance was provided and steered us to support providers in the following way: to agree fee increases, to agree temporary funding to relieve the burden brought about by the pandemic, and to ensure that funding pressures are addressed in the provider market. On the 13th of May, £600 million was announced to support personal protective equipment and infection prevention safeguards. And in addition to this, we are required to submit a return to central government on Friday about how Sefton have supported the sector. By way of further background, 520 clients, service users we have in nursing homes, and we have a further 1,014 residential care homes funded by the council. That total is amounts to 43% of beds are utilised by the council. And on the council spend, Sefton spend £53.4 million in this sector. A high proportion of our providers are good and with some outstanding, and we have plans to support them all to get to an outstanding status. We rely very heavily on small to medium businesses in Sefton rather than large national providers. We have significant issues around voids, with 2,000 voids across Merseyside and 316 voids within Sefton at present. In terms of outbreaks from the pandemic, we have 11 ongoing outbreaks in care homes, and at the start of the pandemic we had 30 care homes that was impacted from the pandemic, and we supported them through a range of measures through our infection prevention controls contract and our public health team and clinical support to make sure that care homes manage the outbreaks in a safe way. We've supported them with PPE, additional supplies of PPE from the council, and Vicky Buchanan has led on that piece of work for us, which we are very grateful for. In the paper, we are proposing the following measures in terms of supporting care homes. We've currently distributed around £700,000 to the market, and we're proposing an additional £2.5 million of funding to the market. And in addition to this, the distribution of the IPC, Infection Prevention Control Grant for PPE, also be distributed to the market. 50% of this total pot is required to be passported to care homes, and what we are planning to do is continue to work with the care homes to make sure that they comply with the requirements before we release the further £1.8 million that's been set aside for them. So this paper brings a total of £3.2 million to the market. This investment is, the financial investment is not all that we're investing in this market. We've set up a range of clinical and practical support measures for care homes, which we are going to be informing central governments about on Friday through our return. So the Sefton Care Home Support Programme is a range of measures, and we have a multidisciplinary approach for that support. And so the combination of the money and the practical support to care homes is what we have been working on over the last few weeks. I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank our care home sector and frontline carers for their commitment and dedication to vulnerable Sefton residents. I just wanted to present this paper and the recommendations within it to you today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cummins, you wanted to say something on this one?
Yes, please, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Deborah and the team for all the hard work. Particularly, they've been given pretty tight deadlines to achieve all this. So they've managed that, and I'm happy that everything is compliant and they're doing their best to support the care homes during the crisis. I think it's really good that in Sefton, we've had no home that's actually run out of PPE. They've all, although at some stages apparently it's been quite close, it's been kept going, and the situation is a lot better now regarding PPE. I'd just like to make if that's all right, to make a slight political point, Chair, and that's the fact that I think that this government has made care homes, it's been an afterthought, sorry. Care homes and social care in general has been a complete afterthought. And unfortunately, we've lost thousands of people across the country unnecessarily. If we'd had the right measures in place, if processes have been there, and liaison between the NHS and the care sector, we wouldn't have had the deaths that we've had, including in Sefton. And I really feel for the families of those people who've lost loved ones, and also the care home staff themselves who care so much for people. I spoke to the manager of a home in my ward last week, who said her staff have been incredible. She was also actually grateful to the support from Sefton Council, which was nice to hear. That was unsolicited. But that home had lost a number of residents, and it's an awful shame.
Thanks, Paul. Does anybody else want to say anything on this one before? Anyone else want to say anything on this one before we move on? Can I just echo the comments about the care home staff against all odds, day after day, as Paul says, at the back of the queue almost as far as government priorities for a long time. Just wonderful job to do, and a big shout out to them. Okay, we've got the recommendations in the report as set out by Deborah at the start, recommendations 1 to 4. Is that agreed? Is there any disagreement to agree in that?
No, agreed.
No, agreed. Can't say anything.
Okay, no disagreement has been indicated, so the recommendations are approved. Thank you. That finishes the business on the agenda of the day. Can I thank all members for their remote attendance and officers at today's meeting? And can I thank members of the general public who may have been watching us? Stay safe, and that concludes our meeting. Bye.
Bye.